Always on point.
Really welcome.
That is why that's all like this. By a guy called Herodian. Now, Herod became the king because the Romans appointed him the king. He was a Jew, but he was a Jew because his father converted to Judaism. The family was not Jewish originally. Also, obviously he wasn't from the royal family, but he married a princess. He decided he should be the king. His wife's brothers thought otherwise. They thought they should be the king. I will not go to the whole story. There's a war. Eventually the Romans made sure he will be the king. Now, he likes the Romans like him, and he wants to make them even happier, so they will support him more. When he becomes the king, he looks around, how can I make money, how can I gain power and connect it to the Romans? He realizes, stop that, much more. He decides that the best way to do it is to connect with Rome, send stuff and get stuff, trade. But there is a problem. The land of Israel, his kingdom, on the eastern shores of the Mediterranean Sea, there is no port, no big port. They are very small ports. Because in order for a port, you need a bay. You need land to go into the sea and block the winds, block the waves. But there is no natural bay in the land of Israel, except for one area that you couldn't use 2,000 years ago. So people just worked with small ports, but the small ports cannot compete with the big ports in Egypt, in today Turkey, all these areas. But this guy, I told you, he thinks big, he thinks outside the box, and if possible, he provokes nature. Now the Romans just invented a new invention. They learned that if you mix different kind of stones and soil with water, it becomes solid. Concrete. Okay? Cement, concrete. So when he learns that it's a possibility, he comes here, not personally, he sends people in this area. They build huge, they call it caissons, huge like wooden rhapsodies, but with walls. Okay, imagine a very, very big rhapsody with a wall made of wood. And then they sail to the sea. When they get to the place they want, they bring boats, and the boats fill up this thing with the dirt and stones and soil that is needed. Slowly it goes a little bit down, right? At a certain point, they let the seawater come in. When the seawater come in, it becomes a very, very solid, huge cube. And then it sinks to the bottom, because it's very heavy, right? And then he's doing it again and again and again, hundreds and hundreds of times. Slowly, this piles up from the bottom of the sea, and it pops out. In this way, wall into the open sea. That was, how you prefer me talking, meters or feet? Feet? Feet. About 1,500 feet long.
Wow.
And almost 200 feet wide. Wall into the open sea. Nobody does anything like that before it. That's an amazing technology that he's using, and he provokes nature. And he gets another wall, and so he creates a port. And it's a very big port, man-made. Now, next to the port, he builds a city. He builds first the city for the people that need to build the port, and later on, people that will run the port. Because there's nothing here, he can build the city the way he likes. And he likes it Roman style. So today, when we walk through the ruins of this area, we see the ruins of what we call a Roman style city. And I will point out several areas that are part of it. And again, the uniqueness of these places and the connection to the Bible. Ready?
Yes.
The theatre.
Yes.
Yeah. We go through the original entrance. You see some ruins outside. Remember, you saw these ruins outside? Sorry. This entrance is original. About 2,000 years old, a little more. And the Romans called it a very strange name. It was called the Vomitaria. Vomitarium. Why? Because if you stood right here 2,000 years ago at the end of the show, it looked as if the theater vomits the people out. So we're going in through the vomitarium. Of seats. Then there's the second level of seats. I don't know if you remember the ruins outside.
Yeah.
They are the base of a third level of seats. There were 3 levels of seats, the stage, and a big wall. The wall was as high as the third level of seats. Kind of like closed building. Now the Romans performed here, they had again all kind of theater things, comedies, tragedies, fun. We assume that the first stand-up comedians were mocking the crowd in stages like that. They were replaying famous war scenes, battles, all kind of things for the entertainment of the people. Now, when Herod builds this theater, it's the central theater, it's the only theater in Caesarea. A few thousand people could fill up this place. And then it continued to be a theater, an active theater for hundreds of years. Actually, for about 700 years, this place was occupied. At first it was Herod the Great and the Romans. Later on it was the Romans that practically took over. And then, a few hundred years later, when the Romans accepted Jesus, we call it the Byzantine era, they continue with the theater. Only when the Muslims came in the 7th century, they destroyed the city and the theater. And then the centurions covered it. So when archaeologists came in the 20th century, and they started to dig, they found the ruins of the theater. Again, the third level was completely gone, but the second and first levels were damaged but not destroyed. After the archaeologists realized what they found, bring you to the theater of Caesarea. Okay. Well, when the archaeologists dug through the woods to figure it out, in a wall over there somewhere, they found a stone, part of the wall that was not there originally. You can imagine, 700 years that lived here in Caesarea. He donated money to build a building somewhere in the city. Then someone chiseled the stone and placed it on a stone at the entrance or somewhere. You get it so far? Later on in time, this building was deserted. Nobody needed it, it fell apart. And then, when people wanted to renovate the theater, they just took the stones from that building and placed it here, including this dedication stone. Again, not unique. We found thousands of dedication stones all over the country.
Worship your majesty. Awesome God, how great thou art. You are God. We stand
dito maganda lalo. Dito.
Maybe stones that they got from other places.
About this one, those special stone they said they got.
Yeah, I wonder where it was inscribed.
So what do we have here? First thing, very good, we have a sea. Use what? We do have a sea,
We have a
but I
theatre.
told you that Herod the Great built a harbour, a port. But we don't see any port here. What happened to the city? What happened to the port is this. If you look over there, you see the Israeli flag over the building?
Yes.
Right.
We think where you have this big building today, this was where the lighthouse used to be. And the wall I talked about, going into the sea, the building is built on it, and you see a little bit of it. But the original wall went much further deep into the sea. But you only see a small part of it today. But you can try and imagine the same wall, again, 1,500 feet into the open sea. There was another wall further north, and they created a big port, enough for many big ships to sail in safely from the winds, from the waves. When you do something like that, definitely if you do it more than 2,000 years ago, you're provoking nature, right? God never intended that there will be a port here. It's an open sea. The waves should come and hit the land. And what Herod didn't know, he couldn't have known, is that along the shores of the land of Israel, there's a fault line. And there are constant earthquakes all the time. And what happens, how many of you are familiar with the modern theory of the moving of the plates of the earth?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? There are plates and they are moving. What happens here is that the land of Israel is constantly rising up. Very, very slowly. Humans will not see any difference. But over hundreds and thousands of years, you see differences. And the fault line is right there in the sea. And he built the port right above the fault line. So, in time, earthquakes created a situation that the east side of the port moved a little bit up, and the west side, it's still there. But you have to have a diving license. If you will dive, you will see the wall. But it's
Thickness, Irene, she wants to dive. But maybe now is
tell her no problem, as long as she's paying for the insurance. Now, so the whole port was destroyed because of time and the earthquakes and the movements. But it took hundreds of years. Meanwhile, people were living here, and the city at first was a great success. More and more people are moving in here. Again, the Muslims destroyed it in the 6th century. So for about 700 years, it just grew and grew and grew. We think that around 1,500 years ago, Caesarea was almost 100,000 people. Now maybe for you it's not a big number for a city. But we're not talking about the 20th, 21st century. We're talking about the 5th century. How many people were there on the in the whole world? 100,000 people is a huge city. It's like London today. Okay? Now, of course, the theater was active, but they had more things for entertainment. And another thing that the Romans liked to have as an entertainment is the horse race arena. Chariots. It's called hippodrome. Hippodrome because in Latin, hippos is horse. I don't know if you know that, but there is a famous animal that is called by the name horse. Hippos. Which one?
Hippopotamus.
Which means?
Hippos.
River horse. The horse of the river, hippopotamus. Now this was the horse race arena, the hippodrome, that Herod built a little more than 2,000 years ago. People would sit around, you can see the remains of the seat. There was also an option to sit by the sea, but that area was destroyed by the sea later in time. The horses would come out from the other end over there, chariots, up to 10. And they will run here, you can see how they turn around where this white dressed lady is. Okay, and then run back. When they run back, you see how they run straight into a wall? Why there is a wall there? How exactly are the horses crossing this wall?
Jump.
It's too far. And the answer is, when Herod built this, there was no wall there. This was a perfect arena, and they were circling it 3 times, 7 times, 10 times, different games. Later in time, when this area stopped being used for the horse races and other things, people decided to build, and someone built a villa with a garden into the horse race arena. But that came later. Now, there is something important about it. I stop here and I tell you all this because of important things, not just because of the beauty of the ruins. In a certain point of time, after Herod the Great died, his sons took over his kingdom, but they were not good enough for the Romans. So the Romans pushed them aside and appointed governors. Since the capital of the land was Jerusalem, with the temple, the Romans left it to the Jews, and they turned Caesarea as their own capital that rules the whole country. Okay? This was the seat of the government. That's why Pontius Pilate was here. Because as the governor of the whole country, this was his site. Now, because the city was a success, and the Romans took over, they decided that this whole arena is too small. They needed a bigger horse race arena. And they built one further east in the city. You cannot see it from here. Now, what do you do with this? If it's not used as for horse races, what can we do with this arena? And the Romans, they wanted another kind of entertainment that the Romans liked, but they couldn't find in Caesarea when Herod was the king. What kind of entertainment? Well, the Romans sometimes took a theater, okay? And then they took another theater and they put them together to create a circle, closed circle arena, with 2 theaters. How do we call these 2 theaters combined?
Stadium.
What is the name of this kind of stadium? It's a little tricky because of modern English. But how do you call an animal that can live both on land and in the water?
Amphitheatre. Amphitheatre.
Amphitheatre means 2 theaters combined. So we create an amphitheatre. So they use this semicircle as a theater, and they build another semicircle that we don't see here. It's under the ground. We know it's there. And they closed a much smaller area as an amphitheatre. What did Romans do in amphitheaters? Gladiator wars, exactly. Why we didn't find it in the Herodian city? Because Herod thought like a Roman, built like a Roman, acted like a Roman, but he was a Jew. And Jews will not have gladiator wars. It's against the religion. Killing people for fun. So there is no Jewish control here anymore because Herod is dead and his son is aside. And the Romans turned this to an amphitheater arena. Gladiator wars. The hoof? Can. Those fighting each other, right?
Yeah.
But not only. This is a very good way for the Romans to execute prisoners. What's the fun of crucifying someone if I can send him to the arena and he will have to face a professional gladiator or a wild beast or each other? And we know in all the amphitheaters, prisoners were executed for the amusement of the viewers, of the Romans. Now, who are the prisoners that are executed in a place like this?
Christians.
Not only. Many options. Criminals, murderers, I don't know, rapists, thieves, but also what we will call today political prisoners. And political prisoners around here, two options. One are Jews that spoke against the Romans, and two, Christians, just by being Christians. And we don't know numbers, but we assume that many Christians lost their lives right here. 18, 17, 1900 years ago, just because they chose to stay faithful to their faith. So this is another place to show you that connects to Christianity in the story. And there were Christians in Caesarea, we know that, because in the 4th century, when Christianity becomes the state religion, Constantine the Great, Caesarea becomes the most important Christian city even before Jerusalem. There was a bishop here, before there was a bishop in Jerusalem. And the largest Christian library was here in Caesarea, 4th, 5th centuries. So it was a very important place for Christianity, and a lot of them lost their lives here before Christianity gained power. Questions, remarks? Okay, let's walk around. I want to show you the area over there, and then we will move on.
Any other specific? No, well, the main thing.
And you can read here, if you come closer, Tiberius, Pontius Pilatus, that's Pontius Pilate, Prefectus Judaea, the procurator of Judea. Those names from the New Testament. And the story is he is dedicating a temple, building a temple, dedicating it to Tiberius for the emperor.
Pavement, and you see that it's kind of a small semicircle. These are ruins of a church. There was a church since